Purple Acorn Network.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to From the Desk with me, Jada Montemarano, the podcast where we explore the world of HR. We're discussing the trends, hot topics, and diving into the tools that help organizations improve how they attract, retain, and support their people, while also sharing how job seekers can land the perfect role during this tumultuous time. So grab your coffee and let's get into it. This is From the Desk with Jada Montemarano, where we bring you the hottest HR news from the desk right to you. And today we are excited to have Eric Knauf with us, a seasoned expert in talent strategy, organizational development, and creating cultures of inclusion. As the founder of Belong HQ, Eric has worked with leading companies to transform their talent acquisition processes and build high-performing teams. With a unique perspective on aligning business goals with people and culture, Eric's insights have helped shape how organizations approach growth and success. I'm so excited to have you here, Eric. Thank you so much for joining us.
Happy Monday, Jada.
Happy Monday. We love it. So, we're going to start off a little bit easy. Your company is called Belong HQ, and this is something that is new to me, the concept of belonging in a business strategy. So, let's start off right there of what that means to you.
Belonging for me is the glue and the secret sauce that enable organizations to not only grow, but also make their way through tumultuous times that we're in today. It is the secret sauce for resilience.
And then what does belonging mean, I guess you would say, for people who don't know how you use it? What would that term mean and how you implement it in your teachings?
So belonging means many different things to many people, but it comes down to something pretty simple. Do you feel like you belong? Is this your crew? Are these your people? Is this your organization? Is this your job? Is this your place? Is this your purpose? Is this your why? And to get there though, there are several core ingredients that frame out what belonging is all about, right? So it's one thing to say, I believe that I belong, but you have to ask yourself a few questions. One, do you have psychological safety? Is it safe for you to be able to articulate what matters most to you? Number two, are you included? And that's not just, are you included? Are you invited out for a cup of coffee when everybody says we're sick of the office coffee? We want something special. We're going to go out for it. Are you asked to go? It's also, is your opinion sought? Is it cherished? Is it valued in conversations? Is your opinion, are you included for your brain, not just your wit? Number three is support. Are you supported? Are you enabled to be successful? Are you included? Yes. Do you feel psychologically safe? Yes. But do you also have the support of your manager? Do you have the support of somebody special in that organization that does care about your success? Has the organization thought about what does it mean to develop Jada? So it's the support, including the technical infrastructure, the management support, the L&D resources that are provided for you to be the best version of you. Next is connection. Do you have your people there? Do you have that work buddy that you could go to when things do get rough? Do you have those individuals on the team that will support you, that will include you, and that will protect you through tumultuous times? So these are building, right? Do you feel connected to the fabric of the business? Which leads to the last one, purpose. Are you connected to the why? Are you connected to the values? Are you connected to how things get done in that organization? Not just simply, yes, I feel like I'm included, but I belong because the purpose aligns with who it is that I am.
And a lot of what you spoke about just now were from kind of the employee standpoint. So now from the company
Ah,
standpoint, do you work with the companies to make their employees belong?
fantastic question. And you are like such the setup person for this. Yes. So historically, and don't get me wrong, it's not like this is Belonging isn't new. Maslow would say that it's core to our success as a human. It's fundamental. Belonging table stakes to our existence as a human, not just as an employee, but as a human. So the way I like to answer this, Jada, is um, an organization might choose to spend, call it $200,000 on enterprise software to do something. It could be an ATS, it could be whatever it is. They're going to choose to spend that $200. The follow up year, then you're going to be paying for augmented services and solutions so you can get the most out of that. There's going to be change management so that you get the most out of that software. Everybody needs to be aligned on how you're going to use it. 200,000, right? That's no different than hiring somebody for 100 some odd thousand when you fully load their cost with their benefits, with their the employer burden for taxes and everything, a couple $100,000. I guarantee you that if a company's going to spend $200,000 on software, they are going to seek to get the most out of it. I guarantee you that if they're going to hire an injection molding press, they're going to invest in preventative maintenance. They're going to take care of that investment so they can get the most out of it. Same thing for people. If you choose to hire somebody because the nature of the work that needs to get done isn't going to be satisfied with AI, you need a person to do it, then enable that person to be human, fully human. So, yes, there are corporate outcomes associated with each of those five pillars that I discussed. Furthermore, not only can you measure the pillars themselves, but you could then determine where an organization is on a maturity model. Is it something that they don't even acknowledge exists, or is it breakthrough doing brand new things? So you can measure psychological safety. You can measure inclusion, support, connection, and purpose. And what's interesting is as a company evolves down this journey, their corporate outcomes stand out. So what does that look like? Well, you're going to lower attrition. You're going to boost performance. Actually, Harvard will say that your performance with belonging goes up 54%. So these are table stakes. So when I've talked with CFOs about this, they see belonging as more than just an HR feel good. This is more than just simply words that go on some poster or a shirt or something like that. This is a framework for how a company performs, not just a treat for people to feel good.
Yeah, that makes sense. If your employees feel better and feel like they belong, your output or the quality of work will hopefully go hand in hand and be better. So, are there any examples of how companies can implement belonging and make their employees feel belonged in a organic way?
So I'm glad you asked. So here's the cool thing. With with each of those pillars, there are discrete things that A, the executive leadership can do, B, managers can do, and C, contributors can do for each one of those five based on where they are on the maturity model. You don't want to go, if you are seeking to get fit and you're going to go to a personal trainer, you are not going to start off by doing an Ironman. Ain't happening, right? There's going to be this evolutionary process for you to get there. And it's the same thing when it comes to belonging. So when you consider the TA space, you can actually see an 18% improvement in your offer acceptance rates by weaving in employer, so the messaging as it relates to belonging into your employee messages when they hit a candidate. 18% improvement in offer acceptance rates. And so what are those things that can be done? The very words that we use in our job postings can reflect where we are from a belonging perspective. Do we talk about um, that your voice will be heard, that you will be included? Do we talk about in our postings that you will be supported? Do we talk about the relationship between this role and purpose? and the OKRs for the organization. People want to feel like they're doing more than just addressing a widget. They want to feel the purpose around that widget.
And then on that note, when people are applying for jobs, what should they be looking for to feel like they belong? Obviously, it'll be a person to person basis of what makes them feel like they belong. But in general, what should job seekers be looking for in that application or interview process where they could find that right fit?
Great question. So it actually starts in their very first moment of awareness, right? So that could be a direct outreach message from a sourcer or a recruiter. That could simply be a posting that they see. And again, coming back to the words that a company chooses actually matter. They reflect what is happening within the organization. So if a TA team can actually sit down um, and understand the employee value proposition a bit more clearly as it relates to belonging, then they could address the verbiage that will most effectively resonate that. And clearly, if employees could be talking about that, if you could have employees and testimonials say, "This is what I experienced during my onboarding. This is what I experienced at 90 days. This is what I experienced at 1 year. Oh, and by the way, I'm still included. I'm still connected. I still have sight. So this is what I'm experiencing 3 years later." So it's the words that they use. It's the people that they see during the interview process. And does that sourcer, does that recruiter engage in active listening? Do they actually care about what's being said? Or are they telling somebody? Or are they judging somebody right off the bat? So behaviorally, so it's not just the words, it's the behaviors that they see that can directly impact whether or not somebody walks away saying, "Yeah, I think I belong there," or "No, I don't." Then you once the person does arrive, are you creating the conditions for them to and even beforehand, so pre-boarding, what are you doing to make sure that people feel like they connect day one? I actually wrote something a few months ago that talks about the notion of extending trust. When somebody shows up at your company on day one, they expect that they belong. They expect that they fit. That's an expectation. Unfortunately, as companies, frequently we don't necessarily bake in success early on. So that when I talked about going out for coffee earlier, I've asked people in onboarding classes, did your team ask you out not only for coffee, but did they ask you out for lunch? And then the next day, and then the next day. When you come back in on Monday, the following Monday, after your first full week, if people show up at the office and they were talking about the party that they went to when they got together over the weekend, and that new employee is hearing about it, I guarantee you right there, they've lost belonging.
And everything that you're talking about with belonging, of feeling safe and included, also is very similar to a lot of the concepts that come up with DEI, right? And that is
Mm.
on top of mind for everyone because of President Donald Trump's action about removing DEI policies. So, in your opinion, are they the same? Are they different? Can companies implement belonging as opposed to DEI if their company decides to get rid of those policies? What are your thoughts there since all of this news came out?
We are, yeah. So, in some ways, is this the worst time to come out with a book or the best time to come out with a book? I mean, the wisdom around this, as to, I to this day find myself asking that question. So, in all seriousness, this is the best time to come out with the book, and here's why. Um, I'm not going to let's not get into the conversation around whether did we over rotate on DE&I or not. Um, what is DEI? Let's be very clear as to what that is. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Programs to improve those three items. They're more than letters, they're very important words. What I would argue, though, is that whether we over rotated or not, diversity does exist, whether it's positive or negative. Whether I mean it exists. Equity is there, whether it's good or bad. You can measure equity. So whether we choose to focus on it or not, it still is there, or it can be measured for the ineffectiveness of it. Belonging, however, is foundational to effective DEI. You cannot have effective DEI without effective belonging. It is a precursor. So, yes, it does share that common letter, I. It does share it. But if you don't have the psychological safety, you aren't going to feel included, right? If you don't have connection, you aren't going to feel part of the fabric of the business, right? If you aren't aligned around purpose and why we're here, you don't feel like you belong. And so, if you seek to have a more diverse employee population, you need to first think about belonging. So, it's table stakes. That comes first. If you want to have equity around compensate, you need to first address the table stakes around belonging.
And you
So,
mentioned
I
in
would,
our book, oops, continue.
well, no, so I would say, I mean, I would argue that as organizations mature and go down the maturity model around belonging and go down and progress down the journey, um, fundamental to that, once you start to get into levels, stages 3, 4, and particularly 4 and 5, you do need to have a dose of diversity of thought to get the most out of it. You do need to have a dose of equity to really be able to enable people to truly belong.
And what I was going to say was, you mentioned your book at the start of this. Is it a good or bad time to come out? I know it is coming out soon. So, is there a little bit of a tease you could tell us about what's in it, what companies or job seekers can learn from it? Because I'm sure there are probably heads of certain departments in these companies that maybe are losing these DEI programs and may feel, what can I do? Maybe they can use this book to help in their own way to help their employees feel included.
So Torrin Ellis is a friend to many of us that watch Purple Acorn and that attend conferences in the space. And as he said, and Heather Bussing as well, this is what is next. So as we all struggle to determine what do we do, where do we go from here? Take a step back. Let's take a step back. We are not going to, there are going to be organizations that are going to continue with their DE&I programs. Awesome. There are going to be some that are going to step back a little bit. That's okay too. But do so in a way to become more mindful of what ultimately we are seeking out of it. And I think that's part of the problem is DE&I became more about DEI as opposed to the outcomes that you want from DEI. And so as Torn was quick to say, this is what is next. Yes, folks can focus. They should be focusing on this. My question is, what is why for belonging? Why bother? Why are we even having this conversation? So I start with conversations with CFOs, conversations with investors. What do they care about it? Do they? Well, let me back up. Do they care about it? And if so, why do they care about it? So what are the corporate outcomes? That's first. My goal is to be as pragmatic as possible and deliver it as a set of solutions to improve performance. That's the why I'm doing it. I go one step further though and say, if you're going, as I mentioned earlier, if you're going to optimize the investment around that human that is all of a sudden now showing up at work, right? You want them on site now, return to office. Okay. They're now in your office. What are you going to do with this creature that is there? How do you get the most out of them? Well, in addition to making sure that they have their laptop, making sure that they know how to fill out the right forms, making sure that they know where the restroom is and the coffee is, and how to log into Slack or Teams or whatever. They need to be set up to belong. There are activities, there are specific actions that managers can do to enable belonging. So let's understand what is happening from a psychological perspective, what is happening from a neuroscience perspective, and what is happening from a evolutionary biology perspective. So I back it up with that. So there's the why, there is the science behind it. I then introduce the standard. So I create a standard for belonging, which is based on those 5 pillars that we talked about earlier. If you can measure those 5 things, including corporate outcomes, then you could have a maturity model. So there's a maturity model that goes with this as well, so that you can actually measure where are you today, as opposed to where do you want to be, and then what do you get out of it if you do spend the time. So that is the book. In essence, that is what I put forth.
So I guess you were saying a lot of people need this right now, and you were saying belonging is something that is needed in this current climate. And on the show, we talk about the trends of the HR world. So we know AI technology has been one of them. You're saying belonging is needed. Is there anything else that you see changing or that is necessary that will be happening over the next few years?
AI and belonging it just so happens that they're coming to prominence at a unique time in history, right? Um, we all heard about chat starting in 2023. Certainly, with the changes of the administration, we're hearing a lot about DEI. We heard about it um, during the pandemic. Um, we are only going to hear more about them, both of them. The question for AI is, and what keeps people up at night is, what does it mean for us as people? What does it mean for my job? What does it mean for my function? What does it mean for budgeting? What does it mean for how my performance is going to be evaluated? Right. So that those questions are directly related to, why do we have people to begin with? What is the role of humanity at work? Should we care about it? So again, if we choose to have people come into the office, we should care about humanity. I would argue that perhaps as we do headcount planning, workforce planning, we need to be thinking about the nature of work itself. There might be roles that are appropriate to be used with technology. AI might be the best solution for everyone. Great. If that's the case, then do it. If you need a human to do the job, then enable them to be the best human. So I think what's happening now, and what I foresee over the next few years, is a better understanding of the nature of work. How do you, Jada, relate to the work that you are asked to do? How do I relate to the work that I do? Is it going to be, am I going to use technology? Probably we all will. But how can you be supported in your organization to be the best Jada you can be?
And on that note of this rapidly kind of changing environment, the job market over the past few years seems to be, as we mentioned earlier, tumultuous. So I always like to end the show with a piece of advice that viewers can walk away with. So you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. If there's maybe another advice in there for job seekers out there, you talked about advice on how to find how to belong in a company. Is there any other advice for job seekers on just how to navigate whatever this is that we're dealing with right now?
So there's a line in Hamlet: "To thine own self be true." And there is, as a job seeker, I think it's important for individuals to understand what success looks like for them as a person, right? What are your strengths? Don't sell yourself on your weaknesses, sell yourself on your strengths. Like, let's start with, focus on what you do well, and that's what you sell. What environment do you need for you to be the best version of you? Think about the infrastructure, the support, the tooling, the people. that enable you to be the best version of you. As you're looking at organizations, starting with the job itself, are they able to articulate in any way based on the posting? Are you able to discern whether or not this is an environment that is going to be supportive of you? That's number three that's a third pillar. Are they going to be supportive? Right? What is it that Glassdoor says about psychological safety and inclusion? It's worth checking that out. So you luckily we do have tools out there for people to check out to see what reputation looks like, but some of that can actually be discerned just by the words that they use. Then when you go in for the interview, again, to thine own self be true. Don't sell a disingenuous version of yourself. Lead hard and strong with your strengths, right? And if they love it, they love it. If they don't, I'd rather know that now, right? So
Because
I
then
would
you didn't
argue,
belong, right?
then you didn't belong, right? And so I would argue, lean in with you. They want to hire a human. They want to hire a human that could do the job, right? It's not just a person. They want to hire somebody that could also do the job. Lean in with your strengths to prove how it is that you could do the job, but don't be somebody other than you.
I love that. I think that's a great message to end the show on today. Thank you so much for joining us on our show. We appreciate it.
Jada, thank you very much. This was a joy.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you all out there for listening. You can catch us every Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And if you're hungry for other Purple Acorn shows, you can head to purpleacornnetwork.com or Purple Acorn on LinkedIn. See you next time on From the Desk with me, Jada.